Hey, welcome to today's video. I'm Richard Chapo. I'm a privacy lawyer in San Diego, California. So today we're taking a look at another CCPA question. Does personal information include olfactory data? Now, this might seem like an odd question, and it is, but I'm raising it for a couple of points. One, to give you an answer, but two, to also give you a feel for just how broad the definition of personal information is under the CCPA, as well as how forward-looking the legislatures who the representatives who drafted the law were trying to be. So olfactory data, what are we talking about here? Well, it's your sense of smell. And essentially data related to that. And so you might roll your eyes at olfactory data as a type of personal information, and frankly, I did as well. But it is clearly marked out in the CCPA. You look at section 1798.140, subsection O, subsection 1, subsection H, and it is mentioned very specifically. And so why would they do that? Well, the more you look into olfactory data, the more interesting things become. Turns out olfactory data is kind of on the cutting edge of tech. There are large databases of olfactory data that have been collected from individuals, and the olfactory data process, the process by which we smell and process smells, is something that has gathered the interest of groups like artificial intelligence researchers, because the process is almost algorithmic, and so researchers are looking at whether that can be used as a basis for processing data in the artificial intelligence realm. In more traditional uses, there are some potentially troubling aspects of olfactory data that most people are not going to be aware of. I was not, though that raises some serious questions. So, for instance, losing your sense of smell. Sometimes that can be an indicator for certain medical conditions, such as dementia. And so, in a practical, real-world sense, if a health insurance company or a life insurance company was able to look at data that included, olfactory data points that indicated that you, as an applicant for insurance, may well be predisposed to dementia, do you think that would, impact their decision to approve or deny your application? And the answer is probably pretty clear. There's going to be quite a few insurance and life insurance companies that are not going to be interested in insuring somebody who is predisposed to certain medical conditions, dementia, who knows, diabetes, whatever it may be. And so it's interesting to see how this data is being used. Now, in a more global sense, this also gives you a feel for the CCPA and how far-reaching it could be. Now, the legislature and the representatives who drafted the law were not focused just on the traditional personal information data points that we're used to now, particularly in the online environment: name, email address, cookie identifier, IP address, those kinds of things. They're trying to be forward-looking because, particularly with privacy laws, one of the problems that you find is as soon as these laws are enacted, well, companies start working on ways to get around some of the provisions. And usually within 6 months to a year, the law is largely antiquated. So, for instance, the law may focus on cookies. Well, we see this with the CCPA and with the GDPR. There's a lot of talk about cookies. And Google has already come out and said within the next 2 years, it will no longer process third-party cookies. And so that's problematic because third-party cookies really are a major factor or major infrastructure element of the way the web works now, particularly with affiliate programs and data collection and things of this sort. And so the question is, well, what happens then? What is Google going to do instead? And we have some hints that they may go with something more of an aggregate data analysis approach, but it's not particularly clear. Obviously, they're going to come up with something. And so if the CCPA had just been restricted to the name, email address, and identifiers like cookies, well, it could quickly go out of date. And so the definition of personal information is expansive, massively expansive, very broad. And this is kind of the reason why. Now, is olfactory data, is big olfactory going to become a major issue in our lives? You never know. Probably not. But at least gives you an idea of what the legislature was looking at and what they were thinking about when passing these laws. So if you have any questions or comments, post them below or contact me at SoCalInternetLawyer.com. I'll be happy to talk with you about them. Otherwise, stay safe, and thanks for watching the video.